Hi all guys, today's video is going to be about what I think happened. This is stage 3. Now things have come out, I can talk about it. I've talked to my safeguarding officers, I've talked to my all the people that I needed to talk to make sure that I could do it now, and they said go for it. You can go. Now everyone's got everything out, I can go for it. Right? So this is why from the start I try to guide people to what I think has happened to Summer with everything that's going on. And we're going to use Don and Candice as the evidence. Believe it or not, what Don said and Candice said, and then I'm going to put it in place, and I'm going to put all the jigsaw puzzles down, and then I'm going to click it into place, and then I'm going to give you the full jigsaw puzzle of what I've got. Okay? So if you're triggered by this in any way, shape or form, then don't watch it. Okay? If you're still a fan of Candice and Don, don't watch this, because I don't want to hurt anybody. But this is what I think, why Summer's missing, and why I think these two think they're going to get away with it. Are you ready? Go get a snack, go get a drink, come right back. Sit down. Here we go. I think Don and Candice got rid of Summer because Don and Candice were scared to go to prison, and Summer would have had the evidence, not only of mental and emotional abuse, but physical abuse. They had to get rid of her. And I think Grandma was involved as well. And I think it all boils down to why Grandma went that day to get painkillers that day. This is why I think she took her to Summer's waterhole to give her last day, her favourite drink, to make it Summer's last day. That Don planned this from the beginning, that Candice and Grandma took H along, so H could be the fall guy if it came to it, if they got caught. Not only that, but Summer and H are close, like brother and sister. So she wanted to give H, because she hangs around with H a lot, give him the last day with Summer to say goodbye. That last photograph, the reason why she was dressed in her school uniform was because she weren't going to make it to her school days, and she really was looking forward to it. So in their sick, twisted way, they wanted to give Summer the best day of her lives, and also get a photograph of her in her first day of school uniform. So this is how I think it went the day. Don and Candice and Candice's mother, Grandma, we'll call her Grandma for now, sat down and discussed that within 2 days the CPS was coming, that they were going to have no rights to stop the boys talking. Don said that he doesn't understand why the boy was crying, saying, "Daddy, it wasn't my fault," because they were probably punished for Summer's being missing. They were probably punished because, not probably, they were punished because they were playing on the Minecraft, and they were so interested in Minecraft that they made them believe it was their fault. Don and Candice are forever blaming others and blaming the victims for everything. Right? So Don thought he could be a master manipulator, illusionist, like he always is. But you see, Don was an illusion in himself, because he believed he could make people believe him, and it backfired. In fact, the only people that believe him are criminals. The only people that would support him are criminals in the end. And they're using them for their own personal gain. The good people like us just wanted justice to find somewhere. This is why this case had blew out compared to others. It's not because nobody wants to know about the other kids. That's not true. But this one was a mystery one. And this is why we picked it up. And a lot of people picked it up. So, here we go. They knew that if Summer had been picked up by the CPS and taken, they could have done tests on her and found that she was abused physically, emotionally, mentally. And because of that, Don and Candice knew if they go to prison, it would be hell for them. They wouldn't make it. They knew that. So they had to get rid of the evidence. The most important bit of evidence. See, because the boys are alive, they would have gone to prison for neglect, or in their heads, they would have gone to prison for neglect, locking the kids up, stuff like that. But Summer had the physical scars, if you like, mental scars and emotional scars of a very serious abuse. Right? Because of the delayed talking. Everyone was blaming alcohol, but it was the delayed, because they would have had their medical files. And also they would have talked about when she was pregnant with Summer Candice, they would have talked about, well, either she did have alcohol, she didn't. Now, if she didn't have alcohol and she said she didn't and stuff, but she was, then that's another abuse, right? The kids didn't go see doctors, especially Summer. So they discarded Summer being the most horrific out the lot. The charges would have been more. The prison sentence would have been more. In prison, doesn't matter what kind of people's in there, the one thing that prisoners would not tolerate is hurting a baby, a child, abusing a baby. Now, Don a couple of times said, I don't want them to go to prison because it's very bad in there. They wouldn't make it. But you would make it if you were a criminal, like a thief or something like that. What you won't make is paedophilia. In any prison, in any world, in any state, and even amongst criminals, that is the lowest of the low. And it's easy to get inside the prison, talk to a prisoner, tell them what that prisoner's in for them to get attacked. That easy, like that. One phone call. And it'll be around the prison faster than you can say boo, and they'll be a target. Both of them. In both male and female prisons. It won't even be where Don will be saved, because he knows full well that the screws in there would actually just turn their backs, because they hate it as well, to the point that they don't believe these people should be alive. Right? So, if they went to prison for locking up the boys, beating the boys, stuff like that, it wouldn't be as bad in the eyes of Don and Candice as if they were done for child sexual abuse. SA, if you like. Right? So they had to get rid of the one thing, the one evidence that would put them there for a very long time. It carries a less sentence, physical and emotional abuse, than it does physical. Shouldn't, but it does. That's the law. So they planned it. Grandma's knee, there was nothing wrong with it. But you can't, doctors can't measure pain. And I know, because I've got chronic pain syndrome. They can do tests like your heartbeat, your heart rate and stuff when you're in pain. They can do, you know, like put things on your head and it moves up and down. But someone with a knee that's had a knee replaced, right, they wouldn't, they know it's some kind of pain. So if she said, oh, my grandkids jumped all over me, slipped over me and twisted it out and that, they would believe that would be very painful. And they would give you strong painkillers, edibles, whatever it is, right? I still reckon she got edibles from that hippie place. I really do. And I do believe they gave her as sweets. And that's why they call it sweets. Now, if you listen to Don and Candice, a lot of people are saying, look, see, they're telling the truth. Yeah, because there's the truth and the truth, right? I gave her sweets. Well, technically, gummy bears are a sweet. So technically, they did give her sweets. So it's no deception. They just left out what the sweets had in them, which is not what they asked. If they said what was in the sweets, then they would show deception. But it's not a lie if they're telling them, no, she had sweets. Right? She had a lot of pop and drinks there. There was nothing stopping Grandma giving her painkillers. And not being funny, but Summer, they probably sedated the kids a lot and put them in the basement so they could have people round, get drunk, shout, scream at each other, whatever, right? So they would have sedated them so they wouldn't have to deal with them. So they sedated them. Like Maddie McCann, the parents were doctors. The night before Maddie McCann went missing, Maddie said at breakfast, Mummy, where was you? I woke up crying and you weren't there. So for their last night, what they wanted to do was make sure the kids didn't wake up. So the only guilt that they had was they probably sedated them. Because they're doctors, they know how much to give, right? Probably sedated them, went to do their business, knowing the fact the kids wouldn't be awake, so they wouldn't have to come and check on them as much. Because they'll be in a deep sleep. The kids wouldn't get up. And that's when this horrific person had gone in and took took poor Maddie, and no one would have woke up, no one would have started screaming, no one would have noticed because they were in sedation. They didn't hardly go in and out because they were in sedation. And that's what he was watching for. And when he seen them not coming back and forth, or waited until they come in, checked, and then left, as soon as they left, he's gone in and got her. To be honest, I think it could have been any of them kids. It was just Maddie was probably the easy one to pick. At the time, just straightforward grab. Right? So, I think this is what's happened to Summer. They sedated her. They wanted Ali and H to be witnesses. They could convince Hunter that she was awake still, and what he was doing is because Hunter's got ADHD and also he was stoned and drunk. Right? So he has bits of memory missing. So if Candice told him a little story, right, he would then not remember what he remembers because he would be confused. No, remember, you got out of the car and she was awake watching TikTok with you. And he'd be like, yeah, I can remember that. But it could have been hours before. They also knew that a timeline is important. So they had to make the timeline confusing. And the only one who could do that was Hunter. A 15-year-old boy, stoned, drunk. Every time I look online for Twisted Tea, they're always coming in packs. It just happens to be a bit funny that Twisted Tea was all over. Empty cans were all over the place when they were there, but no pictures. And yet when Chris and Candice went down there, there was no rubbish there. The only rubbish there was a few packs of Twisted Tea on the other side, which is not saying it's not them. If they did a DNA on it, or fingerprints, they probably would come up with Hunter's fingerprints. Then she phoned Don. Hunter wanted to go back to Candice's place. Candice said very clearly, Hunter wanted to go back. Listen to it carefully when she's talking to Chris down at the water. Hunter wanted to come back, and I said, no, kid, you're going home. Because he's done. That he's done with. That's it. You've said goodbye. This is the last time you're going to see her. You've said goodbye. You're our alibi, so go away. You're done. Because the other parts couldn't happen. Candice knew exactly when the CPS was coming. Now, everyone says they were coming that night. I reckon they were coming that morning. Right? They also know they had no right. If the CPS said, I'm taking the kids in to do investigations, if they said no, then all they'd do is get a court order and get the kids removed. So there was no stopping that happening. They knew that. They also knew that a prison sentence would be more for sexual abuse than all the others. And they wouldn't be accepted in the prison, and they will be targets, constant targets in them prisons. They knew that, and both of them were involved. And even if Candice didn't do anything, and she was just getting stoned of a night and being in the same bed, they still would class her as part of that. Right? Because of Don's past. This is why Don's panicking, because his past has come. She happens to be 5. Don knows full well they're going to put 2 and 2 together and make 4. So he has to try and twist everything. He has to try and convince as many people as he can that that didn't happen. But instead, he actually made it happen because he admitted it. Because Don thought he was the king, the god, and everyone would believe him because in his world he was. He was the one that provided. He was the one that everyone waited for. He was the one that everyone fell for. If he raised his voice, everyone would jump into place. So in his world, he was God. He had control of Candice's mother. He had control of the children. He had control of Candice. He had control of everyone around. That's why he didn't want a lot of people and a lot of friends coming around his house. Not because of the way they lived, because that was their choice of the way they lived. There's no way Don and Candice were poor. They wouldn't be able to drink every night. And, right? So, they had to get rid of Summer. Now, the one thing is where? There's an abandoned place where the medium went to. And I think the neighbour's abandoned place is where Summer is. I think she's in the in a well. And that dog that they showed isn't Summer's pup. It's not Summer's dog. They all look alike except for one thing. Summer's dog had a patch. It wasn't black and white all around. It was black and white, but it had a brown patch. That's what made it special for Summer to pick that pup over all of them. That was not Summer's pup. Because Summer described her pup, and it's not Summer's pup. When you look at the picture of Summer with her hands all swollen, look at that pup. Okay? But because they're all related, all the puppies are mated within each other, they all look similar. It also had a dip at the end of the tail. In fact, it looked a lot like Chase. You know, the puppy from the cartoon? It looked a lot like that, the same markings and stuff. I think that's why she chose him. That dog doesn't look like that. So anyway, I do believe that's what's happened. And I believe that Don and Candice knows exactly where Summer is. Don was right. See, illusionists tell you the truth by saying this is a real coin, this is a real card, this is a real card of decks. There's no lies there. It's the trick that's important. It's the trick that needs to be convinced. Right? So the illusionist has to make it as real as possible for the trick to work. If you have fake plastic cards, then they go, that's not real cards, bugger off, you've got fake cards, you can just pull it out, stuff like that. So to an illusionist, I have to make sure that you believe that them cards are real. You believe that the act towards the trick is real, and that they've got to convince you it's real. So because humans have this thing about telling the truth by their body and telling the truth by their mouth, they have to be convincing. So they have to do a certain amount of truth. And this is what Don and Candice have been doing. So people with body language, if they do a test, like a test, a lie detector test, anything like that, would put them as that, right? Well, there's sort of like this deception there, but not, because it makes sense. It's telling the truth. And this is why everyone's confused. Because if you look at a magician, 99.9% of the trick is real. There's only that small percent. So a lot of our brains, because most of it goes towards it, gets confused. And it's like, hold on, this doesn't make sense. Everything else is in place. I've seen it. I don't understand how a person can sign for a card, fold it up, and then the magician takes it away, rips it up and that, and it's in the pocket. That part you didn't see because they're quick. The hands are faster than the mind. The mind has to process and stuff. They know this. So by the time you've signed it, they've folded it up and you're watching it. It's already in your pocket. And they've ripped up a different card. Then they go out and they go to everyone, oh, watch it, excuse me, and all this lot. Go out and everything like that. I've seen people in London get stabbed, get cut across their backs by someone just pushing past them. And you think, oh, like, I've just been put, oh, sorry, mate, sorry, didn't mean it. Yeah, whatever. And then you turn around and the back's full of blood because they've been sliced with a standing knife because it was so thin and they felt the impact of someone pushing. They didn't realise that they'd been sliced until the white shirt becomes red. And it's not until the brain figures out they've been hurt is when they feel the pain. Do you see what I'm saying? Similar to when you're having an injection. If you tap the area, it desensitizes it, and then it's going, what's going on? And then next minute you go, cough, look away, cough, and then it's in, done. Because your mind's somewhere else. So that's how a magician works. So that's how Don works. 99.9% of what they're saying is the truth, but they're actually telling you what the crime they've committed. So Don have said, people shouldn't go to prison. I've been there. It's a horrible place. It's evil. They wouldn't make it there. So what he's saying is, if anyone goes in for child abuse, I know what happens. I've seen it. I've seen people being hurt. Right? So he's already said that. Candice has already said, well, H is right, except for everything's higgledy-piggledy. Well, of course H is right and it's higgledy-piggledy. Now they've got to make up the probability. No matter how slim it is, if there could be, then they need it in there. So then Don's job was to do what he did. He did it. So I don't think Candice would have been callous enough to be able to touch Summer's body, to be fair. I wouldn't know until they do the mental thing on it. But I think Don did most of the hard labour. So Don's saying, I was definitely there at 5:30, and sure I was. And they're saying, well, no, look at the evidence. Everything says 6:30. Oh, it must have been me. You know what I'm like? I'm all screwed up because of drugs and stuff. Get it? So he's telling the truth. So when he goes to the lie detector and they say to him, was you there at 6:30? Did you turn up at 7 o'clock? Go, I did turn up at 7 o'clock, but I swear it was 5:30. Then it will show no deception. Because he's just giving you the true answer, which is 5:30. Just because no one believes him it was 5:30, just because the evidence isn't there it was 5:30, because everyone else says it was 6:30, he still knows that it's 5:30. So if he says, yeah, I was there for about 6:07, something like that, they phone me, it would show deception. So something wouldn't be right there. But if he said, I swear it was 5:30, But okay, everyone's telling me it's 6:30, fair enough. There's your deception, there's your illusion. He's told them the truth. It was down on the actual meter, it's the truth. It was 5:30. But everyone else is denying that and saying, no, it was 6:30. I know it was 6:30. No, they phoned the police at 6:30. Well, they say the police. This is the bit I don't understand. This is the other bit of illusion. Don and Candice both said that Don said phone 911. But 911's not just for the police. 911 is also for the fire brigade. It's also for ambulance. So why did they automatically think to phone the police? When he said phone 911, why did Candice say, I dropped the phone, ran, and got my mum's phone to phone 911? So that means Don didn't have time to telephone the police. And then, as time goes on, he changed it. I told Candice to phone the police and phone 911. He had to put that in because a lot of people were saying, well, why phone the police? Why not the fire brigade? Well, it's because of a missing kid. Yeah, but a missing kid in 10 minutes. Normally, the parents would call out the names, look around. How long does it take to look around a house or around that area? 20 minutes, half an hour? Boys, go down, look for your sister. We'll look here, we'll look there. It doesn't take 10 minutes to look for your sister. It was too quick. From someone going missing to them phoning the police was too quick. Now, don't get me wrong. The police always say it's the faster the better. But how would you know a child was missing in 10 minutes? You wouldn't. Or 2 minutes. You wouldn't know she was missing. Because Summer plays hide and seek. What if she went to the shed and hid in the shed because her mum was yelling at her? Now you know that the child abuse case said Mummy was angry that day. And when Summer went up, we could hear Mummy and Nan shouting at her. So, Summer, remember, if you look back at Electric Medium's voices on the box, right? And then you look at my videos when I said, Summer said that she ran away from her mum because her mum was chasing her. That's why she had no shoes and socks on. She ran out the door. She ran down with her dog. Her dog was with her. Then she said, Mummy, I was coming out the road and then Mummy came down with the car and started shouting, Summer, where are you? Wait till I get you. And the dog come running out towards Candice, wagging its tail, and Candice apparently kicked it, shouted at it and said, get back up. And the dog ran up the hill. And then Summer said she doubled back. And she was scared. She was very scared. Right? So what if Summer woke up? What if, you know, because like she has that ADHD type mentality. We don't sleep for long. That's why when they sedate you, when you're having an operation, they have to keep you under sedation because you wake up through it. I've woke up through an operation when they had me cut open. And I was like, what the heck's going on? I was like, ow, the pain. And they were like, shit, she's woke up quick. They said they had enough to knock out an elephant, but they needed to keep me unconscious. Right? So what if Summer woke up while Candice was tying her up or doing something to her, and then she started screaming and she managed to escape and run because she was strong. According to Don said she was stronger than the boys. She can pull herself up on the swing. So they were giving us all the information we needed that she was a strong, wriggly sort of child, right? So she got away from Candice. Candice ain't the fittest of people. Grandma's got a knee brace. So, you know, out of all three of them, Summer would floor him in a run. Summer, Don keeps saying, Summer used to run behind the boys on the motorbike. Summer used to run behind. So he's given us all the hints there. Summer runs. So it would have been easy for her. How did she run into the woods with, well, when you're in fear, remember what I told you about when you have an injection, they tell you to cough and they tap you, and then all of a sudden they put it in and out and it's done, right? Remember, fear, the brain, illusions. So if she's running through the woods, she could have got bit by a snake. She could have got stood on some stone. She could have things gone through her feet. Her feet are harder than normal because they're not soft, because she's used to walking around with no shoes and socks on, for a start. So if you look at people that walk around with no shoes and socks on, their feet are hardier than ours. So it'll be less likely sticks and that go up and hit, where you're like, ow, 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 ow. She'd be more hardier. But even if sticks did go into her, or branches or nettles or anything, she would not have felt it at the time because her adrenaline was too high. Look it up, you'll see it. I know this because I'm scared of needles. So they have to do different things to stop me from running. And then when they get me, they have to say, see, it didn't hurt, did it? I didn't even know you did it, because they were tapping me, keeping my brain busy, saying cough. And as they coughed, my brain was too busy going, what are you coughing for? There's nothing there. Boom, it's done. Right? Don and Candice have told us the whole story in their interviews. Summer would not just run off on her own. So they've just told us Summer had to be chased, would have had to been scared to run through them woods, to have more fear than a bear or a snake attacking her. She's a 5-year-old child. She's not. She doesn't have that ability to think ahead. Is this more dangerous? Is it? She just sees the person who's chasing her is more dangerous than anything in that woods. She's turned around and she's fell down something. I think she's fell down either one of them wells, or if you look on the map, it says 110, but then it says 160 something on the actual house. So I reckon there's 2 addresses. And I reckon the police have got their address, but haven't got the Old Stead address. And on the Old Stead, they would have had a well. Because on the abandoned where Juanita went, there was loads of wells on. And the guy that owns that property said, yeah, there's wells everywhere around here, because the original houses were built in a different area to these ones. And they were built more closer together with the well. But there's no wells usable. There's a lot of places, like the other kids that went missing, especially that little girl with autism, they found her, thank God. But because there was no bad play in there, there was nothing there to bad play, they were looking, they were worried, because there was a well and it had old boards and it just cracked. The boards were all cracked and damaged, and they thought she might have fell, but luckily they found her. Right? So what I'm saying is, if an autistic child who's vulnerable, a 5-year-old autistic child who's vulnerable, had no shoes on, went into the woods, walked into the woods for some unknown reason, they would have been found. So Summer, because it was fast, 10 minutes, the police were there, everyone was there, the helicopters were up and that, she would have been found. If it was just a quick run in the woods, or she's gone in the woods, she would have been found. Right? Don said she wouldn't run in the woods on her own. The second thing is Don went away. Right? Don kept pushing the police and everyone away. He kept injecting himself into the investigation to confuse people, like the authorities. Well, I told them it was not she was gone. I knew she was gone. He's telling you. So when people say, well, how did you know she was gone? Well, it was obvious. She doesn't run in the woods, but it's not obvious. It's just obvious to Don. So he now is telling everyone, well, I know she's not in the woods. I know it's a waste of time you've been in there. Of course he knows, because he knows where she is. And every time someone went near the area where she was, Don was like, no point in being there, it's down there. The boys were close, probably close to finding Summer's body. They were close. So he had to get down there and get the boys away. Because the boys would know more than anyone. The boys would know where Summer would be hiding, because they played a lot in there. They grew up in there. But so did Don. Don knows every part of that area, because that new house he's in now, the old 1110 house, is where he was brought up. So he knows where the wells are, where basements are. How do we know that the house near that area wasn't totaled, but the basement was just covered? How do we know there's not like a trapdoor where they've taken the house away, but there was actually a storm basement in there or something with a load of stuff on it? And that silver thing that you see when you look on Google is actually a hatch. And when the light hits it, it lightens up. And it's actually a hatch. Is she in that hatch? Because in those days, there used to be, if you go back to the 18th century, there used to be a lot of storms up there, especially on top of the hill. So they had a special storm area where they could go down in. Where's that? They've totaled the house. They normally leave the storm drains there. They normally leave them storm things there. So she could be in there. And then they just cover it with a few, no one will see it. But when you see the Google map and it's shining, it could be actually one of them storm drains things. Because if you look at the weather in those days when they were small, there was a lot of storms. Do you see where I'm getting at there? So she could be in there. But because Dave and that are experts, eventually they would have looked around and eventually would have said, let's get the old maps. And they would have pulled out the old maps and they would have seen that and said, right, let's look here. Let's look under here. They would have done the new map first. Then they would go, oh, there's an older map. Let's look at the older map. Then they would have said, let's look at the environment in those days. Let's see if they do have storm drains, basements, stuff like that. Right? But Don would know because he was brought up there. So that silver thing could actually be the lid and they've not covered it properly. Right? Now, Summer says in the spirit box something about chains. What if the chain is actually covered in plain sight? What if the chain they used to haul her down, because it is a long way, and if she's unconscious or anything like that, they couldn't just throw her down there because they could have waked her up and then she could have been screaming and people would hear her. They might hear her because they don't know how quiet that storm drain thing is. So to get her down there, they would have had to use a chain. So what if the chain they use on the bottom of their gate is the actual chain they use to lower Summer down in? Or one of the chains. Did they have one of them chains? Because they say that two wheels, like two, they say 4x4s are the only thing that can get past there. So if someone came up like a builder, or like, take for instance, they've got a satellite dish, right? You can see it. The person wouldn't have had a 4x4 to go up there with satellite dish. So what if they needed chains to pull people out that didn't understand the terrain properly and pull the cars out? So where's that chain that they use to pull cars out? Because they have vans, don't they, people with satellites? They don't have 4x4s, they have vans. So if a van gets stuck, they come up, oh, by the way, we're putting up your satellite dish, come up. They would need someone to hoist them out. It clearly says, when you look at most of the terrains and that, even Mr. What's his name? Mr. Shear gave it away when he turned around and said, when Don was doing the thing, said, see, there would never be anybody with a truck to get in there unless it was a 4x4. He said it. You would have to chain and yank it out. He gave us the other piece to the puzzle. Right? So whoever put the satellite would have needed to be yanked out. Someone would have been needed to yank out for them to say that. They needed to know that terrain, and a lot of vehicles needed to be stuck for them to say, you need to get a yank in chain and yank it out. You can put it onto your 4x4 and then do it and then take it off. So what if that's what someone meant? It was that chain where, you know, you put it on your car. Well, what if they did it, got the Subaru up there, linked it onto the Subaru and hoisted Summer down, and then had to get rid of it because of DNA. So what if you didn't want no one to go in that shed at that time because that chain was in there? Because if you think about it, where is it? Where's the hoist there? Not everyone's going to know you need a 4x4. Not everyone who does like satellite dishes or delivery or something like that. Like if they said they used to have a guy come down to do the bins, but they don't do it no more because it got too hard for him to get up. That's her exact words. It got stuck a couple of times. The bin men's things that they had to do it down below and then come up, and they said, no, it's just too much hard work to get up there, to get your bin, to drag it all the way down. And they kept getting stuck. And Candice even said it herself in Chris. Yeah, in the end, they couldn't do it because they couldn't keep coming up. And we kept having to pull them out and drag them down. Right? So, where's the hoist? Also, Summer mentions chains. Right? So, at first, we thought she means the chain that locks the front. But no, what if she means the hoisting chain? Where is the hoisting chain? You cannot be in a terrain like that and not have a hoisting chain, because Don's only got a two-wheeler truck from his work, right? So knowing him, a couple of times he must have had his truck stuck there and needed the Subaru to pull him out. Why else would you get a Subaru? Because it's a 4x4 and it's easier and quicker to pull out, and it's easier in that terrain, right? Also, it would pull out Don's cars. It would pull out people's cars. But it's something that Mr. Shea said when he said, look, there's no way not a 4x4, no way another vehicle could get through there. You would need a hoist to get out of that. That was my last jigsaw puzzle. That was the last piece that I needed, was to understand the terrain, and I couldn't go up and see it myself. But when he said that, that was done for me. That was my last piece that I needed. The hoist is missing. Now, where would you put a hoist? Where would you hide a hoist? It's plain and simple, isn't it? Somewhere deep. So where the hoist is will be where Summer is. Why didn't he want them in the shed? Because if the police takes everything for DNA sampling, they would have took the hoist. They would have seen blood on the hoist. Or Summer's hair. Or something. Do you see where I'm getting at? Why shave Summer's hair? Because of her identity abuse? No. Because if you've got long hair, the long hair can snag on something, right? Leave evidence behind. You could be walking and a bit of Summer's hair could fall out, long hair, a chunk of it, and it could be right next to where they've thrown her down or put her down or hid her. And that could lead, the dogs could find it. You think about sniffer dogs would be able to find it if they don't want the dogs to follow one route. Because to be fair, Summer's been all over there. So why didn't the bloodhounds go towards the swing? Because that's where she was most. Why didn't the bloodhounds go from the back door to the swing and back door? Because that's where Summer mostly walked. So that's where most of her smell would be. Unless you took a t-shirt, like I say, a swimming costume, and then rubbed it in that area, and that was the freshest part. So Donald Candice has picked up, or Grandma, because there was 3 of them, remember? While they're doing that, Grandma could have been using the clothes that she was wearing and put it on, because that was the freshest point. That's where the dogs went down, to confuse the dogs. Shave Summer's head so there wouldn't be no long hairs left, dropped, so the dogs would find her. I think Don and Candice hurt Summer because Summer was the one that if CPS took her away and done tests on her, they would have found things on her body. We know, us survivors know what we're talking about here. They would have found a lot of evidence of physical, mental and emotional abuse, and they would have got a long time for that. Now don't forget, Candice, Don and Candice's sister Rose had disappeared. Grandma said, I went past their car. They had different number plates though. Yeah, she had to have an excuse to say where she was. So if she got spotted changing the car number plates or anything, she could say, yeah, I went past there looking for her. Do you see what I'm saying? Rose can't be found. So did they think automatically we could do it again? Maybe Summer is with Rose. Where Rose's body is, Summer is, because no one's found her. So why would they find Summer if they can't find Rose for 12 years? Why wouldn't you put Summer in the same place as Rose if nobody else was to find Rose for 12 years? Where would the best place to hide another body? The same place. In the same way, right? Did they have time? Loads. That's why it doesn't match. That's why the times don't match. So there's my theory and what I think happened here and why Summer went missing. Because CPS could have took her away, done examinations on her, and there's nothing they could do once they got hold of him. Now they got hold of the kids. They've both been done. They've been charged with child abuse. They've been charged with neglect. They've been charged with mental abuse, emotional abuse, and physical abuse, but not sexual on the boys. Sexual abuse is the worst one you're going to get in prison, and also as a charge. And you're also going to get a register put on. And if Candice is pregnant again, it's not a good idea, is it? To have a Schedule 1 or sex offender on your thing, because they'll just keep taking the children away, right? Candice has no qualm with starting again with kids. She's done it before. Got rid of 2, one of them being mentally damaged because of the abuse. But that's okay. Just saying. That's mine. That's what I think has happened here. And I do think Rose, where Rose is, Summer will be. Killers don't change their MO if it works. Serial killers don't change their MO if they can't get caught, and it never works. What do you guys think? Put your comments down below. I'll catch you in a while, crocodile.